get up nowhere. Austin 316 says I just whipped.
Are you ready?
What's up YouTube, Mr. Bookman here, and today is all about the Royal Rumble. This event is personally my favourite of the year. It brings unexpected battles, insane returns, even comical moments, and it officially kickstarts the road to WrestleMania. So let's dive right in with my 2021 Royal Rumble predictions. I'm going to start off with the Universal title match. Roman Reigns has been built as a monster since his return, and quite rightly so. His character work has been next level, and he's brought his cousin Jay up with him at the same time. He's a monster heel at the moment, but isn't a cowardly heel like we've seen in the past from other champions. He is living his head of the table persona, and he is smashing it out of the park. As of SmackDown Live, we've had a change in the match. It was originally Adam Pearce who was meant to be battling the Tribal Chief, and it seemed all the cards were stacked against him, especially with how weak the WWE have portrayed him on screen. However, after a bit of good shrewd business and a help of a little niggling knee injury, Pearce got one over on the Universal Champion, and now we have none other than Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns in the last man standing match. Kevin Owens is far from done with Roman Reigns. After being screwed out of the title on 2 occasions now, I expect this to be his last bite at the cherry. It's been 5 years since Kevin Owens was on top of the mountain, and it's about time they put a bit of faith in him. To me, I think Owens winning makes a lot of sense. After all, it frees up Roman Reigns to bully his way into the Royal Rumble match, head into WrestleMania, and face Drew McIntyre, or possibly give us the match we were expecting last year. Spear versus Spear, Roman versus Goldberg. Speaking of Goldberg, next we have the WWE Championship. We have the fighting champion versus the superhero-like challenger. For me, this is just a match to get Goldberg's name on the card. There's so many other matches that could have fit in here and been pure barn burners, such as Sheamus versus Keith Lee versus Drew. But never mind, we'll have to make do with what we have. Drew, unfortunately, is coming off a fresh case of COVID, which WWE may want to use, but I doubt it. If Goldberg wins, I can only see one situation, and that'll be the same as how fans reacted to Hell in a Cell when we had Rollins versus The Fiend, and even Super Showdown when we had The Fiend versus Goldberg, and that can't be good for any sort of business. Drew has been built as a monster since last year's Royal Rumble. I can't see him losing the title, but we could see a squash match, and I don't mean Drew getting squashed. I can see Goldberg losing very quickly in this, just to push McIntyre further up the rankings, and to prove he is the dominant champion he's always said he is. Next up, we have the SmackDown Live Women's Championship. This match hasn't been announced officially yet, but I'm going to predict it anyway. Sasha Banks has had a very good 2020. She won the Raw Women's title, technically twice, the tag titles, and she also dethroned her best friend Bayley. She is impressive in the ring and can adapt to practically any style, and she has a lot of heart in doing it. However, since Carmella has had her makeover, she's been a completely different animal altogether. She's full of confidence. She looks to be going for the SmackDown Live Women's Champion, and if her last match is to go by, the boss may be in trouble. There will no doubtly be an interference from Carmella's assistant, but Carmella could shock the world and end the boss before she kicks it up another gear. I don't think there's going to be a title change here, unless they want to hot potato the title to give Sasha another reign just for the record books. Now it's time for the Royal Rumble match. The Royal Rumble will be spectacular as usual. The last couple of years have been a huge improvement from years before, with returns such as Edge last year being the highlight of my 2020. This year there's no fans, and with obvious restrictions I doubt there's going to be many returns like it. That being said, I have a hunch there'll be at least one. That person returning, in my opinion, will be Seth Rollins. Seth was set to return on SmackDown, but it was pulled at the last minute. I think they're trying to save him, and he will return on one of the biggest nights of the year. And for me, he'll be one of the last in the match, just to get full effect of the return. We may also see the return of the Rated R Superstar. He's been injured and not seen since his match with Randy Orton back in June. Rumour says it'll be a light return, so if he does enter, expect him to come near the end and maybe for a quick win. Someone who I expect to be one of the favourites in this match is Randy Orton. Randy Orton has had maybe the best year of his career, turning back to his true heel persona he was seemingly created for. The Legend Killer has been on fire, and he's kept his momentum all year long, adding a WWE title to his already impressive CV. His Royal Rumble is going to be a dominant one, but his beef with The Fiend is far from over, and I think we'll see a much darker, more sinister Bray Wyatt costing the Viper his chance to main event WrestleMania. First two entrants in this match have always got the lowest odds, but tend to be the workhorses of the whole company. My initial thoughts are to have someone the likes of Daniel Bryan as the first entrant, and maybe someone like Dolph Ziggler who can also fill in that role. There are always dark horses in this match. Someone that sneaks under the radar, racks up a good amount of eliminations, or just stays in there for a good amount of time. This year I see Big E, Keith Lee and Bobby Lashley all having a very good showing. My initial thoughts for the Final Four was going to be the return on Edge and Seth Rollins, along with a clearly tired Daniel Bryan and the mighty Bobby Lashley. But after the change in the Universal Championship match, it's hard not to put Roman Reigns and Jey Uso into that bracket as well. As for the winner, I wouldn't be surprised to see Bobby Lashley win it this year, and we'll have a 3-month run with Drew vs The Hurt Business leading up to WrestleMania. The Women's Royal Rumble is just as chaotic as the men's, returned, escapes and stars being made. Last year we saw the main roster debut of Shayna Baszler, and it set up how dominant she was going to be through 2020. We also expect some NXT stars to pop up into the match, and if the last 2 years are to go by, they'll put on a good show. Speaking of last year, we will see Bianca Belair debut in the match last year, and she was the MVP of the whole contest. I expect to see similar things this year from the EST of WWE. The first two entrants for me are always the technical type, so expect to see the Bo and Natalya start the match. Usually paired in this spot would be someone like Sasha Banks, but she's the women's champion, so I'd put my money on someone like Bayley to pick up the mantle this time around. It is rumoured that we may see the return of the man Becky Lynch. She could be making a surprise return since she dropped the title to become the Mom. If that's the case, I assume it'll be a very brief entry, probably towards the end of the bout. I expect to see Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair to be the MVPs of this match, both coming across very strongly on TV leading up to the match. It wouldn't surprise me if Nia Jax is also shown as the monster she's been portraying over the last year. She is a heel in every single way, especially in the opinion of the WWE Universe. My Final Four will be Charlotte Flair, Nia Jax, Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler. This could lead to the on-screen implosion of Jax and Baszler and free either one of them up to pursue the women's title from Asuka. It's time for a heel to win the Women's Royal Rumble, and it's time to pull the trigger on Shayna. She's a legitimate threat to any champion and deserves the strap after the year she's had, and what better way to build on her momentum than a massive Royal Rumble win. And there's my predictions for the 2021 Royal Rumble. The only thing guaranteed with this match is there going to be shocks, twists and lots of turns as we kick off the road till WrestleMania. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.